we enter into your sanctuary, we invite your presence. We invite your Shekinah glory to tabernacle with us one more time. Lord, we pray, God, that every heart will be touched, every heart will be lifted, every heart will be encouraged, every heart will be moved by the power of your Holy Spirit. Father God, I pray in the name of Jesus that those who may have feeling a little sick in their body this time, God, that as they experience the warmth of your presence, as they experience your holy anointing, I pray in the name of Jesus that you will drive away every pain and sickness and fear and doubt, and we welcome your glory. May your glory, Shekinah glory, fill this house in the name of Jesus. We destroy and we dismantle every works of darkness. We come against every obstacle. We come against every distraction, and we pray, God, let your presence permeate this place like never before. I pray, God, as your word come forth, it will come forth like a dynamite. It will move our hearts and our mind and our soul and our spirit. Father God, we thank you for your cleansing. We thank you for your washing. For your blood has made us whole. So Father, as we open this service, we pray you touch the musicians. We pray you touch the worship leaders. We pray you touch everyone that is involved right now. We pray in the pastor who is on her way from Montego Bay, that you will give her safe passage through as she comes to speak a word into our spirit. We pray, God, that at the end of this day, our hearts will be lifted and our hearts will be blessed. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Give God there is fullness of presence.
Yes.
Hallelujah. I'm going to invite our dear, let us turn our hymns to hymn 208. And right after the hymn, we'll have our scripture reading coming to us from 1 Corinthians 11, reading from verse 17 to 34. And that will be read by no other than our minister, Barbara Richards. Amen.
Nothing but the blood. Can you leave it? Yeah.
Nothing but the blood. Hallelujah.
What can make me whole
Hallelujah. This is all my righteousness. Nothing but the blood of Jesus. I now invite Minister Barbara Richards as she comes to read the morning lesson.
Good morning, saints. It is a privilege and an honor to be in the house of the Lord again. The scripture reading is taken from 1 Corinthians 11, and verses 17 to the end. Can I have a moment to find it, please? And it reads thus. Now in this that I declare unto you, I praise you not, that ye come together not for the better, but for the worse. For first of all, when you come together in the church, I hear that there are divisions among you, and I partly believe it. For there must be also heresies among you, that they which are approved may be made manifest among you. When you come together, therefore, in one place, this is not to eat the Lord's Supper. For in eating, everyone taketh before other his own supper. And one is hungry, and another is drunken. What? Have you no houses to eat and drink in? Or despise ye the church of God, and shame them that have not? What shall I say to you? Shall I praise you in this? I praise you not. For I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Jesus, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. After the same manner, he took the cup, when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as oft as ye drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do shew the Lord's death till he come. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. For he that eateth and drinketh unworthily, eateth and drinketh damnation to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. For this cause many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. For if we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. But when we are judged, we are chastened of the Lord, that we should not be condemned with the world. Wherefore, my brethren, when you come together to eat, tarry for one another. And if a man hunger, let him eat at home, that he come not together unto condemnation. And the rest will I set in order when I come. This is the word of the Lord, and we honor it by saying, Thanks be to God.
Hallelujah. I love that last line. It really touched me. The scripture said, the rest I will put in order when I come. Amen. Amen.
Hallelujah.
That's what the scripture said. Amen. The rest I will put in order when I come. So we will just keep on praising him. Amen. Keep on giving him the glory and lifting up our hands and believing that one day, things will get better. Amen. Hallelujah. The song says, better things are coming by and by. Amen. Come on, I want someone to give the Lord some glory. Come on, give a clap offering. Lift up your hands. Whatever it is you feel to do. Hallelujah. Let's bless the Lord. Can we bless the Lord? Can we bless the Lord? Somebody bless the Lord. Can someone bless the Lord? He's here, you know. The Bible says when 2 or 3 are gathered gathered in his name, he's in the midst. Amen. Come on, let's welcome the Holy Spirit. Let's welcome the Holy Spirit. Hallelujah. Come on, let's bless the Lord.
Oh my
time. Come on, let's really bless him this time. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Oh, my soul. Come on. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul. Worship his holy name. Come on and worship his holy name. Oh, worship his holy name. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The song says, worship his holy name. He's a holy God. Amen. He's a holy God. Amen. Hallelujah. We're going to lift him up even higher right now. The Bible says, if I should be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. Amen. Come on now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen. The name of Jesus lifted high, lifted high, lifted high. The name of Jesus lifted high in this place. You sing. Name of Jesus lifted high, higher, higher, yeah, yeah. Name of Jesus lifted in this place. Clap, clap, clap. Listen, sons and daughters shall be, we're going to decree, shall be saved, shall be saved. Our sons and daughters shall be saved in this place. You sing, sons and daughters shall be saved. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Sons and daughters shall be saved in this place. Clap, clap, clap. Listen, this is us. I hear the sound of an army arising. I hear the sound of an army arising. I hear the sound of an army arising. You say, I hear the sound of an army arising. I hear the sound of an army arising. I hear the sound of an army arising. Where? I hear the sound. I hear the sound of an army arising. That's you. I hear the sound. That's us. An army arising. I hear the sound of an where? Army arising. In this place. Oh, rise up, 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 rise up. In this place. Yes, rise up, 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 in this place. The name of Jesus lifted high, lift. I want to see your hands. Lifted high. The name of Jesus lifted high in this place. The name of Jesus. The name of Jesus lifted high. You say lifted high. Yeah. Oh, oh. In this place. through with us. Amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. You know, Psalm 3. You know Psalm 3, the scripture Psalm 3? It says, Lord, how are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. But thou, O Lord, are a shield for me, my glory and the lifter up of my head. Amen. Be encouraged, everyone. Lord, how are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me. You're my glory. Art a shield for me. You're my glory. The lifter up my head. That's it. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. I laid me down and slept. I laid me down and I slept. I awaked for the Lord to sing. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me. You're my glory. You are. You're my glory. The lifter up of my head. Thou, Lord, you are a shield for me. You're my strength and my shield. You lift my head. Hey. A shield for me. You're my glory. The lifter up of my head. I will not be afraid. Hey. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people that set themselves against me round about. I will not be afraid. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people that do what? That set themselves against me round about. I will not be afraid. Sing it. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people. That's right, church. That set themselves against me round about. Come on, let's speak it. I will not be afraid. Not be afraid of 10,000s of people. Hallelujah. That set themselves against me round about. You are. Yeah. You lift my head. Thou, are a shield for me. You're my glory. Hey. The lifter up of my head. Hey. But thou, O Lord, you are. Hey. You're my glory. You lift my head. Hey. I'm a shield for me. You're my glory. The lifter up of my head. Now listen to this part. I want everyone to sing this. Listen. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lifting my head. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lifting my head. Sing it with me. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lift. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lift. Thank you for lifting my head. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lift. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lift. Thank you for lifting my head. Thou, O Lord, are a shield for me. My glory, you lift my head. Oh, thou, O Lord, are a shield for me. You're my glory. One more time. Come on. Thou, O Lord, are a shield for me. My glory, you lift my head. You are a shield for me. You're my glory, the lifter up of my head. Hallelujah. Come on, give the Lord a praise. Give the Lord a praise. Praise the Lord. Come on, give the Lord a praise in the place. You can do better than that. Thou, O Lord, are a shield for me. My glory, you lift my head. Come on, just wave those hands in the atmosphere. Just let him see how grateful you are. That once we were not up, we were down. Amen. We were down. I tell you, girl, I tell you that once we were down, Sister Francis, I've not always been up. Hey, come on, straight. There were times when I was way down. Ask Bishop Franklin, he will tell you that once we were down. But oh Lord, you're a shield for us. You're the glory that lifts our head. Come on, just wave those hands. If you're online, just wave your hand and give him a praise for lifting you. Give him a praise for lifting you. For thou, O Lord, thou, O Lord, are a shield for me. Lord, my glory, you lift my head. Thou, O Lord, you're a shield for me. My glory, the lifter up. Now, if you're grateful, just raise your hand. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lifting my head. Sing it out, say it. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lifting. Thank you for lifting my head. Come on now. Thank you for lifting. 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 Thank you for lifting my head. Thank you, Lord. Hey, thank you for lifting. Thank you for lifting my head. Hallelujah. Put your hands together for the Lord this morning. Praise his holy name. Thank you, Lord, for lifting my head. I tell you this morning we need to get into a spirit of gratitude. I don't know about you. I remember when I was blind and he lifted me back in my sight. Come on now. I remember that. Bishop Franklin, I remember that. I remember when I was 15 years old and blind and he lifted me back into my sight. So thank you for lifting. Come on, musicians, work with me. Thank you for lifting. I remember when I was 6 years old and dead and he lifted me and gave me life. I asked my father, thank you for lifting. I
they said he wouldn't live to see the afternoon. But thank you for lifting my head. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Glory to God. I remember when I bought my house and didn't have the first mortgage payment to make, and God sent someone with the exact amount that I needed the very morning that I needed it. And I said, God, thank you for lifting my head, for it would have been a shame to have bought the house and you couldn't make the first payment. But thou, oh Lord, my head. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Praise his name. Praise God. As Pastor Richard comes, he's going to come and welcome you. I would just like, as the senior pastor, to welcome you to First Assembly Ocho. And if you're online, I'm going to also welcome you. Put your hands together as Pastor Richard comes, in Jesus' name.
Good morning again. Are you enjoying the presence of the Lord? Let me greet those who are out there in the social media platform. We welcome you to the First Assembly of God, Ocho, Jamaica, online service, divine worship service, and I'm sure you're enjoying the presence of the Lord in your room, on your veranda, in your kitchen, wherever you are, on social media, taking in the service. I'm sure you're blessed and entertained with the presence of God. I'm sure after this service, you will experience a miracle in your life. Amen? Let me welcome those who are here with us for the first time, worshiping and giving God thanks. If you are here, just wave your hand. Just wave your hand. Bless God. Clap our first-time visitors, First Assembly. Amen. And for all the faithful members that are coming out to our worship service amidst the pandemic or the plandemic that is going on, that is not going to stop us from praising God. For the Bible says, let everything that have breath praise the Lord. Amen. So even if your mind can't move, but your tongue can move and your mouth can open, just look up into the heavens and shout a hallelujah to the Most High God. Amen? Amen. I want to welcome our founding bishop, no other but Bishop Liebert Franklin, the founder of this great ministry, the godfather of this ministry, and we are happy for him to be with us, and his lovely wife, Sister Franklin, Paulette Franklin. Welcome, ma'am, to the presence of God. Welcome also our associate pastor, Minister Mark Coote, Pastor Mark Coote, and his wife, and their beautiful daughter. Come on, clap them, clap them. Yes, hallelujah. I welcome our minister and preacher and doctor and mother and friend everything that you can think about that is good. Reverend Lorane, Dr. Chisholm, our senior pastor in the house, traveling all the way from Montego Bay. Isn't that wonderful, a faithful servant of God? Not many ministers, not many pastors would do that. Pastor in two church, and sometimes she have to share her time and all of that. I don't know how she do it, split it. But, you know, she's doing a great job. And come on, clap your hands for our senior pastor, Reverend Dr. Chisholm, in the house. We welcome the ushers. We welcome the beautiful, wonderful, talented musicians. Praise God. Yes, I can't forget my beautiful wife, because I don't want to go home and have trouble. So let me welcome Minister Yvonne Johns in the house, faithful woman of God. Amen. She just give me a look and that is it. Amen. Yes. So we just want to welcome all the ushers, deacon, workers of this great fellowship. Welcome. Elders of the church, welcome. Wonderful people of God. Welcome Teen Challenge Women's Ministry and Teen Challenge Men's Department in the Teen Challenge area. We welcome you. Minister Anthony Richards is here with us. We welcome him. God bless you. Amen. The praise and worship team, I won't forget that. Wonderful, wonderful. Praise and worship director, wonderful song this morning. I'm sure you're blessed. And I know at the end of the service, you will say, I was blessed to be in his presence. Amen. God bless you as we continue in our service. Amen. Should I, Pastor, it's your time now to break the word. And we're going to hear from the woman of God as she break the word, and then we get into hands of fellowship. Wonderful thing to do. Welcoming people into the house and the family of God. Amen. God bless you.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. I got a mic. Bishop, they gave me a mic. First Assembly, thank you for my mic. I got a mic. Praise the Lord. God bless you, Brother Ron. Isn't this wonderful? We were a little concerned a few weeks ago because we didn't want to be swapping mics and stuff. And so the church said, you know, let's get some mics. So put your hands together for yourselves for getting some new mics. Amen. Amen. I'm going to ask you to just stand with me quickly as we go into the word. I know that our time is limited online, and we don't want our ministry members who watch online to not get the word. So today, I just thank God. I thank him because we have some new members who are going to be taking hands of fellowship today. I thank him that we are going to minister together in communion, the fellowship of communion today. I thank him more than anything, though, that he's the main thing in my life. Amen. I thank him more than anything that he's the main thing. If the God is the main thing, if Jesus is the main thing in your life, just raise your hand and give him thanks. You know how many people are looking for Jesus and can't find him? Do you know how many? Come on, Sister Barbara, talk with me. I'm not getting any amen up here. Amen down there. Yes, man, Sister Debbie. You know how many people are looking for salvation, looking for peace, looking for hope, looking for the way, the truth, and the life. Do you know how many people are looking and cannot find him? So now that he has found me, now that God has drawn me, and I answered, now that I've found Jesus, I must give him thanks. Amen. I give him glory, for he's the best thing. One songwriter said, Jesus is the best thing that ever happened to me. You know, Jesus, brother Anthony, Jesus is the best. Oh God, where would I be without the peace that comes with salvation? Where would I be? Praise team, please join me. We're just going to minister as we declare. I'm just using this song as the foundation for my word this morning. Jesus at the center of it all. I just pray today that if you're watching us online, that Jesus is the center of everything that you are. For when the center cannot hold, Mutty Perkins, one of our radio stars, used to say, things fall apart when the center cannot hold. And if Jesus is not your center, things will fall apart. So this morning, we don't claim to be great singers, but we just love to worship. Amen. We just love to worship. So we're just going to sing one time, Jesus at the center of it all, and hope that you will just declare this over the word today and over your lives. Amen. Jesus at the center of it all. Jesus at the center of it all. And every knee will bow. From beginning to the end, it will always be, it's always been you, Jesus. Come on, call his name Jesus. Jesus at the center of it all. Jesus at the center of it all. Jesus at the center of it all. From beginning to the end. From beginning to the end. It will always be, it's always been you, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Jesus, nothing else matters. Nothing in this world, nothing in this world will do. For Jesus, you're the center. Yes, you are. Jesus, you're the center. And everything revolves around you. Jesus, you. One more time, Jesus at the center. Jesus at the center of it all. That's right, Daniel, keep it. Jesus at the center of it all. From beginning to the end, from beginning to the end, it will always be, it's always been you, Jesus. Jesus. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing in this world will do. For Jesus, you're the center. Jesus, you're the center. And everything revolves around you. Jesus. Now here's the bridge. From my heart to the heavens. From my heart to the heavens. Jesus be the center. It's all about you. Yes, it's all about. From my heart, come on. From my heart to the heavens. Jesus be the center. It's all about you. Yes, it's from my heart to the heavens. From my heart to the heavens. All about you, Lord. All about you, Jesus. From my heart to the heavens. Jesus. All about you, Lord. All about you, Lord. Jesus at the center. Jesus at the center of it all. Jesus at the center of it all. From beginning to the end. From beginning to the end. It will always be. It's always been you, Jesus. Been you, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Call his name Jesus. Pick it up. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. You're the main thing, Jesus. The center of my life, Lord. All that I am, Lord, I owe it to you, Lord. My protector and provider, my healer, my keeper. Yeah, Jesus. Doctor in a sick room, lawyer in the courtroom. Oh, you are Jesus. Wheel in the middle of the wheel. Oh, you're Jesus. Savior and provider. My true best friend. Oh, I call your name. From my heart to the heavens. Jesus be the center. All about you. Yes, it's all about you. Jesus. Hallelujah. 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 Thank you, praise team. I'd like you this morning to just make your heart good ground for the short word that we're going into. We have some people who are choosing to follow the Lord by joining the ministry of the body of Jesus Christ today. And so I'm praying that the words that I speak will encourage their hearts to know that they have done the right thing, that they are doing the right thing, that there is no better thing to do. Thank you. There is no better thing to do than to join with the body of Jesus Christ. Praise God. Before I begin, I honor Bishop Franklin. Bishop, you're blessed and highly favored. I praise God for you. I praise God. I praise God that you're well. I praise God that you're here with us. Are they taking a picture of Bishop? Have they turned the camera on to Bishop? Bishop, please stand and just wave, because I know that our first presiding bishop is going to be, stand right there. Our first presiding bishop is going to be watching. So I want to make sure he knows that you're just wave so that Bishop Michael Grant and the ministry team can know that you're with us today. And his lovely wife, Sister Paulette, Minister Franklin, just wave for me so that we know that you are blessed and highly favored. God bless you. Thank you, Bishop. It's a pleasure to see you. I bless God for the leaders of this church, the board members who are there with us, helping to keep the ship afloat. I bless God for the cell group leaders who have ministered to the souls of their other members of the church. I praise God for the two blessed young men that God has given me to minister with, Pastor Richard Johns, our assistant pastor, and Pastor Mark Coote, our associate pastor. Just praise God for them today. Thank God. I also thank God for our musicians who are here. No matter what. unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Can I say that again? In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have done what? Overcome the world. What has Jesus done? He has overcome the world. Amen. You don't sound like you're glad about that. Jesus said, I have done what? Overcome the world. With that scripture in mind, I want you to just look at the person 6 feet away from you and just say, focus on the main thing. Just tell them, focus on the main thing. Focus on the main thing. Come on, focus on the main thing. Yes? In these days, everyone is finding it very challenging just to stay afloat. Amen? I don't know about you, but me and many people like me, we're finding it really challenging to just stay afloat, to stay centered, to not lose your mind, to stay sane, to stay just walking the path, to just stay holding on. There are many people, our two pastors preached last week and the week before, that we've got hope. There are some people, the only thing that's keeping us is the fact that Jesus is our hope. There are many people that even though Jesus is their hope, they're still struggling to stay afloat, still struggling to stay centered, still struggling to stay sane, and still struggling to stay faithful. It is a rough situation to be in. It's a rough, come on now, I hear a big amen round the back. I want to hear somebody tell me amen. If you let me preach on my own today, you're going to be here till tomorrow morning. So might as well you just preach with me. Not you, Sister Chloe. Yeah, Sister Pink. It might as well you just preach with me. Amen? All right. So many people today are trying to stay focused. So many people are feeling the pinch. Those who were the helpers are now needing help. How many people used to help people? Every turn you turn, you had something to give. Not you, oh, Lord have mercy. Is me one? No, sir. See, Brother Gibbs around there say, yes, Pastor. Every turn you turn, Pastor McIntyre, you had something to give, something to help out. We were sending people's children to school. We were helping people to buy food. Some people couldn't pay rent. We were helping to pay rent. We were sending money abroad to help Africa. Oh, Lord, have mercy. I got me 3 girls down in Kenya that I'm sending to school, and I'm trying now to keep it going by trying to just pinch to make sure that things stretch. Many of us who used to be helpers are now needing help. Come on, and make me think, and make it look like some not talk nothing. Remember, we're online, so I can't check the patwa too hot, you know, because people don't understand it online, so I don't have to talk with me, so I don't have to chip in a patwa. Amen. Yes, so here we go. People are trying. As we look around us, we are constantly reminded of the temporariness of our situation. Everything. Now is the time that we realize how temporary things are. There are people who used to pray for people, they now need prayer. People who used to lay hands and be ministering, healing over people, they now need healing. I'm stressed take over them body, and you hear them calling and saying, Pastor, pray for me. I can't stand up. Why can't you stand up? Doctor say I'm stressed. Stress. Because everybody's now found themselves in a position where everybody is feeling the pinch. We look around us today, we recognize that things are just temporary. Those people who used to have lots of money in the bank, it's all gone, and now they're calling for help. Things are temporary. Pastor McIntyre preached down in Montego Bay. I have 2 Minister McIntyres. The one in Montego Bay preached and said, you know, that vanity of vanities, all is vanity. No matter what we have in this life, this pandemic has come to show us that things are temporary. In the twinkling of an eye, things change just like that. 1 minute you're up, the next minute God has to be the lifter of your head. Temporary. But Stephen Covey, one of one of the good writers on leadership. I like to read his books. He wrote Principle-Centered Leadership and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And, you know, when you're teaching and learning, you got to read those things. And so Stephen Covey, before he died, he said that the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Tell somebody, focus on the main thing. Come on, do better than that. Tell them, focus on the main thing. Yes, Pastor McIntyre, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So what is the main thing? Tiffany, what's your main thing? That's what you need to talk about. What is your main thing? Your main thing is this. That I would like to make some suggestions. It might not be your main thing, and it's by no means an exhaustive list. I'm just going to give you 4 of what my main thing is, and you can look through your Bible and find out what your main thing is. But my main thing is this. The Bible says that in 2 Chronicles 20 verses 1 and verse 12, it says, after this, the armies of the Moabites, the Ammonites, and some of the Meunites declared war on Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat was terrified by this news and begged the Lord for guidance. He also ordered everyone in Judah to begin fasting. So people from all the towns of Judah came to Jerusalem to seek the Lord's help. Jehoshaphat stood before the community of Judah and Jerusalem in front of the new courtyard at the temple of the Lord. Verse 6, he prayed. Verse 14, the Spirit of the Lord came upon one of the men standing there. His name was Jehaziel. Verse 15, Jehaziel said, listen, all you people of Judah and Jerusalem. Listen, king, listen. This is what the Lord says. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged by this mighty army. For the main thing is, the battle is not yours, it is the Lord's. That's your main thing. That's your main thing. That's my main thing. My main thing, oh Lord, have mercy. Come on now. My main thing is, I got to calm myself down. My main thing is that no matter what is going on in this pandemic, the main thing is the battle is not yours, it is God's. No matter how many armies the devil lift up on you, look at what Jehoshaphat says. If you read the scripture, it will tell you a more detailed story, Bishop, that Jehoshaphat talked to God before he prayed. And he said, God, look at these very same people that you told us not to destroy. You told us to give them a chance. You told Israel, don't destroy them. Don't wipe them out. Walk around them and give them a chance. And Jehoshaphat and they said, and these same people. How many of us are now looking at these same people? The same people you gave everything for and to. The same people you took your last dollar out and gave. The same people you got up at midnight to pray with when you thought they were dying. The same people whose children eat at your house. The same people who don't have no water in their house so they get water from you. The same people who, when they don't have a pound of rice, you cook 2 pounds and give them 1. The same people who, when your banana was growing out in the field and you knew that they were hungry, you cut the banana and gave them a half simply because you didn't know, they didn't have it. Those same people, Jehoshaphat said, they have now come and they've joined together. They've ganged up against us. God, do something. And what did God say? God said through Jehaziel, he said, God, listen to me, king. Do not be afraid and don't be discouraged. Don't be afraid of this mighty army. I don't know what mighty army you are dealing with right now. I don't know if it's an emotional army. I don't know if it's a physical army. I don't know if it's a financial army. I don't know if it's a relational army. I don't know if it's a family army. I don't know what it is that's going on, that the devil has gathered his band and agents against you, and he has dispatched them to come and destroy you. But I tell you this morning, keep the main thing the main thing. The battle is not the main thing. The war is not the main thing. The amount of people standing up against you is not the main thing. The main thing is the battle is the Lord's. That's the main thing. Many of us, when we start to fight a war, many of us, when the devil lifts up his heel against us, we start to get worried. Many of us, when the money is not enough, when the rent is due, when the mortgage can't be paid, when the bank is sending for your car, when the bank is coming to take your house, when the doctor says your baby is not doing well, when the doctor says your husband's sick, when the doctor says you've got to take off the right breast, many of us, we start to look at the battle. But let me remind you today to focus on the main thing. The main thing is not the breast cancer. The main thing is not the mortgage. The main thing is not the sick baby. The main thing is that the battle belongs to God. Keep your eye on the main thing. Keeping on the main thing. The Bible says that if you keep your eyes on God, Zephaniah 3 and verse 17 says, the Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior. Oh, Lord, have mercy. There are many times, brothers and sisters, I don't feel like a mighty warrior. We pray every day at midday on the phone, on WhatsApp. There are some days Sister McIntyre has to take control. There are some days Sister Clooney has to take control. There are some days Sister Pamela has to take control. There are some days Sister Joan has to take control. On the men's group, there are some days that Brother Gibbs has to take control. Some days Brother Junior has to be in charge. Some days Brother Parks, way from Miami, Florida, has to be in charge of prayer. Because some days the battle is hot and I cannot be where I want to be. Some days the devil lifts up his standard. Some days I've got to do like Jehazel and just believe God. There are some days that everything mounts up on you and you wonder, what is this really going on? Well, let me tell you something. It is those days, Sister Joan, that I get down on my knees and I recognize the God that I serve. And I recognize that in the eyes of the enemy, I might be so small, but my God is a mighty warrior. One songwriter said, mighty warrior, great in battle, Jehovah is your name. That is what I recognize. What is the main thing? The main thing Zephaniah said is that the Lord God is with you, and the main thing is that he's a mighty warrior. And the only time that you've got to worry about the war is if you take your eyes off the main thing. If you take your eyes off what God has focused you on. If you become distracted, the devil will stomp you down. If you come distracted, you will walk out with Jesus on water. And the minute you become distracted like Peter, you will begin to sink. I cannot swim, so I've got to keep my eyes on Jesus. Hey, Brother James, I cannot swim. I'm not very good at swimming. I remember when I was like 14 years old in England, and they tried to teach me to swim in London in school in a swimming pool, and some girl came behind me and thought that she was running a really nice funny joke and pushed me into 6 feet deep of water, and I had no idea. I grew up in Orange. We don't swim, we paddle in river. Brother Richard, nobody in Jamaica didn't know how to swim. We don't do swim. We jump in the river water down a buggy gut, and we paddled and just flashed about. There was no swimming. So when this chick pushed me in 6 foot of water and thought she was running a joke, and they recognized that I was not coming up, oh Lord have mercy, the swimming teacher had to jump in to get me, and then they had to pump my chest. I don't even know if Pastor remember, if Bishop remember those things, and they had to pump my chest to make sure I was still alive because I could not swim. Now if I like Peter, take the chance, and Jesus tell me, Lorane, keep your eyes on the main thing. Stay focused on the main thing. Keep your eyes on my eyes. I got my eyes on you, Lorane. Don't look down and worry about the water. Don't worry about the great armies that are around you. This is the main thing. Keep your eyes focused on me, for you cannot swim, Lorane. So don't start to sink. Keep your eyes on the main thing. And the main thing is that as long as you keep your eyes on Jesus, you will not sink. That's the main thing. Oh, Lord. My second point. The main thing in sickness, thorns, and money issues, stay focused on the main thing. 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 7 says, Paul said, lest I exalt myself above measure, through the abundance of the revelation that was given to me, a thorn in the flesh was given to me. The messenger of Satan buffeted me, lest I exalt myself above measure. For this I besought the Lord 3 times. Paul prayed to God, God, take away this thorn in the flesh. But Paul said in verse 9 of 2 Corinthians 12, he said unto me, this is the main thing. Oh Lord have mercy. I feel like I could run up and down in that place. Yeah. I feel like I'll just run around the church. This is the main thing. My grace is sufficient to keep you. For my strength is made perfect in your weakness. That's the main thing, Paul. The main thing is not the thorn that's in your flesh. The main thing isn't that people are trying to obey you. The main thing isn't that your children are disobedient. The main thing is not that your husband's got a chick on the side. The main thing is that your wife is one of the most rebellious Jezebel you've ever met. That's not the main thing. The main thing is my grace is sufficient to keep you. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. You can keep your eyes on the fact that you got a thorn in the flesh. Huh? You can keep your eyes on that. You can worry about the diabetes and hypertension. You can worry about the fact that every month you have to go to the doctor to get a new set of tablets. You can keep your eyes on that. Yes, you can. Or you can just say, God, your grace is sufficient to keep me. You can say that. You can keep your eyes, men, on the fact that you've fallen down before and God has just picked you up. You can keep your eyes on this is the 2nd or 3rd time you've had to be coming to Teen Challenge. You can keep your eyes on that. You can keep your eyes on the fact that every time you think you've made it, the devil pushes you back and here you are back in Teen Challenge. You can keep your eyes on that. Or you can say, thank God that there is a Teen Challenge to come to and his grace is sufficient to keep me. That's the main thing. Focus on the main thing. Don't let nobody come take nothing and discourage you. I gotta run. Focus on the main thing. Hebrews said in Hebrews chapter 13 verse 5, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, this is the main thing, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That is the main thing. That's the main thing. You hear what the scripture says? Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have. That means there are some people who don't have no money and then very discontented about it. Yes, man. Just analyze the scripture. That's just basic critical thinking skills, one-on-one. That means that there are people who love money, and because they don't have any money, they're discontented. Because they love money. Some people just like have the money store up a bank, you know. Some people it's not even that they're in need, but they just like to look at the bank book and see lots and lots of money in there. And they're telling you point blank, no matter what happens, that money not touch. Yes, man, because it's now become an idol to them. And no matter who's in problem or what's going on, that money not touch. But Paul is saying here, mind yourself and the love of money. For the love of money is the root of all evil. But you've got to understand that God said the main thing is money or no money, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Bangbo or no bangbo, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Health or no health, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That is the main thing. That's my main thing. Point 3. Got 6 minutes. There's a point to your power. There is a point to the power that you have. There's a purpose to it. Acts chapter 1 and verse 8. But you will receive power. That's what Jesus Christ said. In the book of the Acts of the Holy Spirit, it is reconfirmed in verse 8, chapter 1, verse 8. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you. Yeah, you will receive power. Now, if you're a Christian and you ain't got no power, please do me a favor now. Find the Holy Spirit. Spend some time Spend some time with the gifts and with the presence of the Holy Spirit. Spend some time seeking his presence, because you're not going to get the power till you have the presence. Amen. You're going to have the power, but the Bible says that the power comes when the Holy Spirit comes on you. And so there is a power, there is a point to your power. Get the power. Find the Holy Spirit and get the power. But here's the main thing, because you know what? Some people think that being powerful is a real big thing. Some people think that exhibiting an anointing that heal the sick and get people to run up and down in church when they walked in a wheelchair. Some people think that that's the main thing. Some people think that the main thing is being able to tell people, you left home today with a man who was wearing a green shirt. They think that's power. They think that power is looking at someone and saying, I know the Lord has told me you've got a pain in your lower back. Let me pray for that pain. They think that's power. And because of that, sometimes people who are supposed to be filled with the Holy Spirit go and get them filled with the man instead, because they want the power but they don't want the main thing. Now the main thing for getting the power that you've gotten, the book of Acts says, and you will be my witnesses. That's the point. That's the main thing. The power that you have is so that you can be a witness to the life and character of Jesus Christ. It's not so that I can breathe into you and you drop down at the altar. It's not so that I can speak in tongues longer than you can. It's not so that you can jump on a plane and fly anywhere and go preach because you've built a big name for yourself. No! The power and the point in your power is that you may witness to who Jesus Christ is, and witness to, oh Lord, have mercy, Father. Point in your power is to witness that yes, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Kimmy, that's what we got the power for. You have not got the power so that you can come and tell me, oh, you know, Pastor, the Lord gave me a word for you. Let me tell you something, baby girl. Keep the word. Let me go ask God what he said to you myself, because I know that I got the Holy Spirit. And then when I'm done, I'm going to witness to you that the character of Jesus Christ is in this life, for that is the main point. People have started being kind of using church as if they think church is somewhere to come and, you know, and sensationalize their giftings and sensationalize the power that sometimes is a devil give to them, and sensationalize themselves. And all of a sudden they all got ministries named after themselves. The Lorane Angela Franklin Chisholm Ministry of the Most High God in the middle of the nowhere, doing what I ought to be doing for Jesus. Amen. What? It is what it is, you know. I know, you know, not everybody's going to say amen, and not everybody's going to agree with me, but I'm telling you what I've experienced. I've experienced going to preach for people, and when I walk into the church, nobody can talk to me. It's like, you know, the people can't even say hello. They've got 14 bodyguards bringing up the senior pastor, and everybody has to stand back while the senior pastor walks up with the 14 bodyguards, and with radios in their ears saying, the bishop is coming, step aside, step aside, step aside. And they walk in front, they push the people, and then after I finish preaching, people walk up to say, it's so good to have you, I'm from Montego Bay. Step away from the bishop, away. Yes, man. I was mortified. I couldn't believe it. I thought I would really have liked to have said hello to that person. You know, just be a nice Montagonian and just say, yeah, what happened? Oh, you know. Yeah, what happened? When last I come, I'm up here. They pushed her aside. No. Stay away from the bishop. And they shoved me into a room and locked the door, for which you need a finger code to get in. You needed a code to get into the room, and they hid me in there from the people. And I said, no, this is not the main point. This is not the main thing. The main thing isn't to elevate me so that people can't even talk to me. This is not the main thing. The main thing is, as the Bible says in Acts chapter 1, verse 8, the main thing is that you will be witnesses, that your humility will show the heart of Jesus. That's the main thing. That your love and your character will show the heart of Jesus. That when you walk into the church, I tell you, sometimes I get into church, it takes me like 20 minutes to get to the platform. For I walk around and say hello to everybody. You hear the pastor them? Pastor, go on the platform. Me say, no man, sister, over this, I have to go and say hello. I haven't seen her for 3 weeks. And I'm around the church saying hello and hugging everybody and say, well, you're all right. And this and that and the other. And the pastors them standing there and say, this is outrageous. But what is the main thing? The main thing is that you will be witnesses of who Jesus is. That when people see you, they will see the character of Jesus Christ. That they will see love personified, represented in you. That's the main thing. My point, my fourth point. There's power and there is point in your power. The Bible in Proverbs chapter 5, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 say, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him. And what's the main thing? You get it, man. You're working with me? He shall direct thy path. That's the main thing. When you trust in the Lord with all your heart, when you lean not on your own understanding, when you acknowledge him in all your ways, the main thing is he will direct your path. You will never end up being one of those people that police says, oh, you know, she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It will never happen. It will never happen that your son is told, oh, that, you know, I'm sorry, your son was found in the wrong place at the wrong time. It will never happen. The main thing is he will direct your path. My son said to me one day, he said, Mommy, we were driving down from Ocho back to Montego. He said, Mommy, you know, I went to one place one day, and all the guys, I think he said it was a race, you know, like they do car racing. You know, these young men, they love to race the cars. He said, they do car racing. And he said, I went to the race, Mom. And he said, as I stood there, you know, it's like somebody was hitting me on the shoulder and saying, Stephen, you're not to stand up here, so move, man. And he looked around to see who was talking. There was nobody there. And he said, the voice said to him, move, you're not supposed to be here. Go home. And he said, you know, after I heard the voice the second time, Mommy, I just kissed my seat and said, sure, I can't take the drama and I can just go in my yard. And Stephen said, he turned around, walked over, and when he got into his car, one of the racing car crashed right where he was standing. He shall direct your path. That is the main thing. The main thing is that when you trust in God, when you know him, you know that he will direct your path. When you lean on him, he will direct your path. There's a point to your power. The power of the Holy Spirit is in you. When he speaks, when the Holy Spirit speaks to you, listen to his voice and let him direct your path. But there are many people who've met upon tragedies because when the Holy Spirit has shaken them, the Bible says, just like in the Old Testament, they shrug their shoulder from God and they stand right there, and then tragedy happens. But the main thing is, he shall direct your path. My final and closing point. Here's the main thing. Jesus Christ said in John 16, these things have I spoken unto you, that you might have peace. You will have tribulation. Hello? Tribulation is there for all of us as long as you're in this world. You're going to have tribulation. But what is the main thing? He has already overcome the world. This is the main thing. He has already overcome the world. First, you have to understand that Jesus prepared us for this. He prepared us for focusing on the main thing. He prepared us by saying they will kill you and they will think they're doing God's will. They will put you out of the church. Yes, they will. You will be scattered, he said. You will leave me alone. Yes, some people are going to backslide. When the tribulation of the pandemic takes some people, they will do all kinds of something to get money. And when hard times start hit them, they will do all kinds of things to get what they were used to. But Jesus said some of them will leave me alone. Some people will even backslide. How many people do you know? How many of you know that there are some people who have used this epidemic to stay home just so they can backslide? You know that? A whole heap of people, you know, use this epidemic to stay home so they can backslide. And when you call them as a pastor and say, well, I haven't seen you in church for a minute. Are you okay? Yes, but I'm online. You're online? You live 2 minutes away from the church. You have underlying happenings going on with you. You're sick. No, you're not sick. So you mean say you're online? Yes, man, we don't have a problem with online. But every now and then come and fellowship. Come and fellowship, because the devil will take you away from the spirit of fellowship that's in the body of Jesus Christ. So some will leave me, he says. You will have tribulation. You will weep and lament, and the world will rejoice. But here's the main thing. Be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. For those of you online, focus on the main thing. The devil's got all kinds of things going on around you, but focus on the main thing. If you don't know Jesus, let me give you some main thing scriptures. Romans 6:23, for the wages of sin is death. But here's the main thing. The gift of God is eternal. What an awesome God. What an awesome God. For those of you who are not living your best life, John 10:10 comes into play. The thief cometh not but for to kill, to steal, and destroy. But here's the main thing. I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Romans 8 and verse 33. Who shall separate us from the love of God? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or no, as it is written, this is the main thing. In all these things, we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. Focus on the main thing. Focus on the main thing. Focus on the main thing. Hallelujah. Oh, if you're out there online, if you're sitting in here and you're feeling discouraged and you're feeling neglected, if you're one of those senior people who are at home and you haven't seen your loved ones for a really long time and you're feeling lonely and neglected and left alone, let me tell you this. I give to you the first thing in 1 Peter 5 verse 7. It says, casting all your cares on me, for this is the main thing, for I care for you. This is the main thing. Casting all your cares. Join me, praise team. During our prayer session this week, I'd like to share with you our main thing. My main thing. Jesus, the main thing. God, my main thing. My main thing. The presence of God, my main thing. My prayer for the week was, Lord, remind us that you are our anchor. And when everything else is moved by the rigors of the storms of life, you remain the same yesterday, today, and forever. You will not be moved. Pandemic cannot move you. COVID cannot move you. Obia cannot move you. Distress cannot move you. Frustration cannot move you. Sickness cannot move you. You are the solid rock on which I stand. You cannot be moved. And this is the main thing. You are who you are, and you cannot be moved. You are the main thing. You are the main thing. Hallelujah. If you're online today, you don't know Jesus, as we close, Matthew chapter 11 and verse 28 says, come to me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden. And here's your main thing. I will give you rest. You've got a main thing for everybody. Jesus is the main thing for everybody. I pray today online, as this broadcast is closed, that the Holy Spirit, the Most High God, will help you to stay focused on the main thing. I pray He will help you to remain focused on the fact that you are not alone. Father, in the name of Jesus, I speak to those who are online, and on their behalf today I say, the gift of God is eternal life. you will give us rest. You care for us. The battle is not ours, it is the Lord's. You are a mighty warrior. I speak those main focuses into being on behalf of those who do not know you, on behalf of those who know you and are listening to the sound of my voice. I give them the assurance that you are the solid rock on which we stand. Our anchor holds and grips that solid rock. I pray today, Father, that you speak into the lives of your people, that everything that they have, Lord, that concerns them, you will move back every anxiety, you will push back every concern, and you will show them that the main thing is, I will never leave you nor forsake you. I pray you'll continue to bless them, Lord, as we close this broadcast. Let their week be productive. Let their week be assured that you are standing right there with them, and help them to focus on you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen. God bless you. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the